The story begins in a small, dusty frontier town somewhere in the American Southwest during the late 1800s, an era defined by rapid expansion, social upheaval, and the harsh realities of life on the edge of civilization. This is a town that thrives on commerce, survival, and often human ambition at the expense of morality. In this town, auctions are a routine part of life. They are held in the open air, beneath the relentless sun, with the scent of dust, livestock, and sweat heavy in the air. Here, cattle, horses, wagons, tools, and sometimes human laborers are sold to the highest bidder. The spectacle is both ordinary and chilling, a reflection of a society where economic gain often outweighs compassion. Among the throng of townsfolk and bidders is Eleanor Whitman, a young woman in her late 20s, known both for her considerable wealth and her unconventional mind. Unlike many women of her social class, Eleanor refuses to be confined by rigid societal expectations. She is fiercely intelligent, fiercely independent, and above all, fiercely compassionate. Her reputation in town is a blend of admiration and skepticism. Some whisper that she is too headstrong, too idealistic, but those who know her recognize that Eleanor is driven by a deep moral compass. On this particular day, Eleanor attends the auction not to buy land or livestock, nor to flaunt her wealth, but simply to observe the dealings that determine the fates of people and property alike. She walks slowly among the rows of sellers and buyers, noting the casual cruelty in the air. Men speak with calculated indifference about the worth of a horse or a piece of land, and some even joke about the value of indentured workers. Eleanor's heart aches as she observes the transactional coldness of it all. Her eyes scan each face, noticing the weariness, the fear, and in some cases, the resignation. Then, at the far end of the auction grounds, her gaze falls upon a young Apache man, Tay, chained and waiting for bids. The sight of him is immediately arresting. Tay is tall and physically imposing, yet there is an undeniable elegance in the way he carries himself. His features are strong and symmetrical, framed by long, dark hair. His eyes, however, are what truly captivate Eleanor. They are sharp, perceptive, and alive with a quiet intensity, a reflection of intelligence, resilience, and a life hardened by hardship. Despite the chains that bind him, Tay holds himself with dignity, refusing to be reduced to the status of mere property. The crowd reacts to Tay in predictable ways. Some look at him with suspicion, seeing only a wild native man who might be difficult to control. Others whisper about his heritage, the novelty of his appearance in their small, predominantly white town, and the supposed danger he represents. Some laugh cruelly. Others make low, disparaging remarks, reinforcing the grim reality that in this society, people are too often judged by race and circumstance, rather than character. Eleanor, however, is unmoved by the crowd's superficial assessments. To her, Tay is not a commodity. He is a human being with a story, a history, and an innate worth that cannot be measured in dollars. She feels an almost immediate connection to him, not of romance, but of moral recognition. She senses the injustice of the situation and understands that she has the means to intervene. In that moment, Eleanor makes a bold and unexpected decision. She raises her hand and places a bid. The initial reaction from the crowd is one of disbelief. Whispers ripple through the auction lot. Did she just bid on him? She can't be serious. Who would spend money like that? The auctioneer, momentarily startled, raises the gavel again, signaling the continuation of the bidding. Several wealthy men, accustomed to asserting power and dominance over those less fortunate, begin to raise their bids, hoping to outmaneuver her. But Eleanor does not waver. Her mind is set not on winning a competition, but on saving a life. With each incremental increase, she reminds herself that money, in this case, is not for her own gain, but for justice. Finally, after tense moments that feel stretched into eternity, the gavel falls. Eleanor has won. She has purchased Tay. A stunned silence descends over the auction grounds. Some of the townspeople are angry, unable to comprehend why a young woman of her standing would waste her wealth on a man of whom they see only status and utility. Others are quietly impressed, recognizing the courage it takes to defy both social norms and common prejudice. The social shockwaves ripple outward immediately, setting the stage for conflicts that will follow in the narrative. The moment after the auction is delicate and profound. Eleanor approaches Tay, whose expression remains measured but wary. He has likely experienced betrayal, broken promises, and cruelty before, and he knows that freedom bought through an auction is a complicated and ambiguous gift. Yet there is something in Eleanor's demeanor, a calm, unwavering sincerity that begins to chip away at his initial distrust. She kneels slightly to meet his gaze, offering her hand in a gesture of respect and solidarity, rather than dominance. Eleanor introduces herself gently. She explains that she has purchased his freedom not to control him, but to grant him agency, dignity, and the opportunity to live on his own terms. She offers him warm clothing to replace the rough, ill-fitting garments he has worn for months, and a hot meal to replace the meager rations he has endured. More importantly, she offers him a choice. He can remain under her protection, in her home, with freedom to act as he wishes, or he can leave with her blessing and chart his own course in the world. Tay, naturally cautious, takes his time processing the offer. The idea of freedom combined with kindness is foreign to him. He has been trained through harsh experiences to expect cruelty, manipulation, or indifference. Yet, as he studies Eleanor's expression, open, earnest, and entirely devoid of self-interest, he begins to feel a flicker of trust. This moment is pivotal, marking the beginning of a bond that will define the rest of the story. The narrative tension shifts subtly. The focus is no longer simply the auction, but the emerging relationship between two individuals from drastically different worlds, learning to understand and respect each other. The townspeople, meanwhile, observe the interaction with a mixture of incredulity and curiosity. Whispers circulate about Eleanor's eccentricity and the audacity of her actions. Some speculate about her motives, suggesting she might be acting out of folly, romantic fancy, or a misguided sense of charity. Others, however, quietly admire her bravery, recognizing that she is challenging entrenched social norms in a world where compassion is often overshadowed by profit and prejudice. This outline also begins to delve into the psychological and emotional dimensions of the characters. Eleanor's decision is not impulsive. It is informed by years of reflection on justice, morality, and the responsibility that comes with privilege. Tay, in turn, faces a profound internal reckoning. He must navigate the dissonance between the world he has known, a world of oppression, suspicion, and survival, and this unexpected opportunity for genuine freedom. His initial mistrust, tempered by curiosity and cautious hope, lays the foundation for a complex, evolving relationship between the two protagonists. Thematically, this outline establishes the story's central motifs: courage in the face of societal pressure, the transformative power of compassion, and the possibility of human dignity even under the harshest circumstances. It foreshadows future developments, including the challenges of cultural integration, societal judgment, and the slow, sometimes painful process of building trust across the chasm of differing backgrounds and lived experiences. After Eleanor's daring purchase at the auction, the story shifts from the dramatic spectacle of the sale to the quieter, more complex dynamics of daily life. The focus is now on Tay's initial days living with Eleanor and the subtle, layered ways in which both characters begin to navigate a new reality together. This outline is pivotal as it explores the emotional, psychological, and cultural adjustments that underpin the relationship and sets the stage for the challenges and transformations that will come. Tay arrives at Eleanor's estate under cautious supervision. The Whitman property is a large, sun-drenched homestead situated on the edge of the frontier, with sprawling fields, orchards, and a modest but sturdy main house. To Tay, the estate is both a symbol of freedom and an alien world. The architecture, the cultivated gardens, and the orderly arrangements of tools, furniture, and animals contrast sharply with the rugged landscapes he has known. For someone who has spent most of his life surviving in harsh conditions, this new environment is overwhelming in its abundance, yet intimidating in its unfamiliarity. Eleanor is keenly aware of Tay's likely disorientation. She approaches his integration into her home with patience, respect, and an understanding that trust cannot be demanded. It must be earned. The first interactions are delicate. Tay's body language is cautious. He keeps a physical distance, yet observes everything with the keen intelligence that Eleanor first noticed at the auction. Every gesture Eleanor makes is intentional, designed to show respect rather than command. She demonstrates simple acts of kindness, such as offering fresh clothing, explaining the layout of the home, and providing a warm meal. These gestures, though seemingly mundane, carry immense significance for Tay. They signal that Eleanor's intentions are genuine and that he is being treated as a human being, not a possession. The cultural differences between Eleanor and Tay quickly become apparent, forming both tension and curiosity in their daily interactions. Tay is skilled in survival, tracking, and understanding the land, skills that are foreign and impressive to Eleanor. She watches as he examines the animals, tests the soil, and instinctively reads patterns in the natural world that she might have overlooked. Tay, in turn, observes Eleanor's knowledge of business, etiquette, and literacy. He is fascinated by the structured routines and subtle social codes that govern her world, just as she is captivated by his physical prowess, acute senses, and mental acuity. Each day becomes a mutual exchange of knowledge and observation, laying the foundation for a deepening respect that transcends words. Yet trust is not immediate. Tay's past experiences have conditioned him to be wary of authority and strangers. He tests Eleanor's patience in small, quiet ways, refusing instructions he finds unnecessary, questioning routines, and occasionally retreating into silence. Eleanor responds with empathy, understanding that these behaviors are not defiance, but a natural defense mechanism. She never forces compliance. Instead, she engages him in conversation, asks for his input, and subtly includes him in decision-making. These deliberate choices empower Tay and help him see that his voice matters, a radical departure from the circumstances that led to the auction. A significant turning point in this period is Tay's encounter with the Whitman staff. Eleanor's household includes a small number of loyal servants who are accustomed to rigid hierarchies and clearly defined social roles. Initially, they are uneasy around Tay, unsure how to treat someone they have been conditioned to view through a lens of social bias. Tay, aware of their apprehension, navigates these encounters with quiet dignity, refusing to be intimidated while simultaneously demonstrating respect. Eleanor acts as mediator, encouraging her staff to see Tay as an equal, and over time, the atmosphere softens. These interactions subtly reinforce the story's themes of cultural understanding, the dismantling of prejudice, and the transformative power of empathy. During these first days, Eleanor and Tay also begin to explore shared experiences that bridge the gap between their worlds. Eleanor introduces him to reading and writing, demonstrating how language can serve as a tool of expression and empowerment. Tay, in return, teaches Eleanor basic survival skills, how to track wildlife, understand the rhythms of the land, and read natural signs that predict weather or danger. These lessons are more than practical. They are intimate, trust-building rituals that allow both characters to appreciate each other's strengths. The exchange of knowledge becomes a symbolic dialogue, a meeting of intellect and instinct, civilization and wilderness. Amid these routines, moments of personal reflection emerge. Eleanor often observes Tay alone, noting the subtle shifts in his demeanor as he begins to relax and reclaim a sense of autonomy. She recognizes that his resilience is extraordinary, shaped by both adversity and a deep-rooted understanding of survival. For Tay, Eleanor represents a paradox, kindness and authority in equal measure, a figure who challenges his expectations while offering safety. Both begin to feel a growing, quiet bond, a connection forged not by romance, but by mutual respect, recognition of humanity, and the shared experience of navigating a world that is often hostile to either of them individually. The story also begins to highlight external pressures during this stage. Word of Eleanor's purchase spreads throughout the town, and not all reactions are favorable. Some community members view her actions as scandalous, an affront to social norms, or even reckless. Whispers of impropriety circulate, and there are subtle attempts to challenge her judgment or influence Tay through social pressure. These societal reactions serve to heighten tension, reminding readers that Eleanor and Tay's personal progress exists within a larger context of prejudice, expectation, and scrutiny. This external conflict contrasts with the internal journey of trust and adaptation, creating a rich narrative tapestry. Another layer of tension arises from Tay's own internal struggle. Having been subjected to dehumanizing treatment and betrayal, he grapples with vulnerability. Trusting Eleanor fully means confronting fear, pain, and past trauma, a process that is emotionally taxing. There are nights when he reflects on his past, moments of silence where his body relaxes, but his mind remains alert, and small acts of resistance where he tests the boundaries of his newfound freedom. Eleanor, in turn, remains patient, offering reassurance without forcing engagement. This nuanced interplay highlights the story's emotional realism, emphasizing that healing and trust are neither immediate nor linear. By the end of this outline, Tay's adjustment has reached a tentative equilibrium. He begins to embrace the possibilities that Eleanor's home offers: comfort, safety, and the chance to reclaim his agency. He participates more actively in household routines, engages in conversation with Eleanor, and even begins to explore the land surrounding the estate on his own terms. Eleanor, witnessing these small yet profound changes, gains confidence in her judgment and her ability to effect meaningful change through empathy and moral courage. Both characters are evolving, shaped by the delicate interplay of independence and interdependence. By the time the story reaches this stage, Tay has begun to adjust to Eleanor's home, and a tentative trust has formed between them. He has started to reclaim his autonomy. Eleanor has grown in understanding and empathy, and the town has started to murmur about this unconventional pair. Yet life in the frontier is never simple, and challenges often arrive unexpectedly. Outline 3 explores the first significant crisis that tests their bond, reveals the resilience of both characters, and shocks the community watching their every move. The crisis begins with the arrival of a group of opportunists from the town, who view Tay not as a man, but as property to be reclaimed or exploited. These men, emboldened by prejudice and greed, have been quietly observing Eleanor's estate and Tay's integration into her household. They are motivated by a mixture of financial interest, racial bias, and a sense of entitlement, believing that Tay, as a native man, does not belong in Eleanor's world. Some of these men may even feel personally slighted by Eleanor's audacious purchase and seek to assert control through intimidation. One evening, as the sun dips low behind the distant hills, casting long shadows across the estate, a messenger delivers an ominous warning to Eleanor. The men plan to come for Tay, either to buy him back through coercion or to abduct him outright. The tension is immediate and palpable. Eleanor's first instinct is fear, not for herself, but for Tay, whose safety hangs in the balance. She understands that this is the first true test of the moral courage and commitment that led her to purchase him. Eleanor acts quickly. She prepares the estate for a confrontation, reinforcing security without creating an atmosphere of imprisonment. She engages Tay in planning, demonstrating trust in his judgment and inviting him to make decisions about his own safety. This collaborative approach is crucial. It reinforces the narrative theme that Tay's agency is central, and that freedom cannot exist without choice. Tay, in turn, displays his resourcefulness, using his knowledge of the land, tracking skills, and tactical insight to anticipate potential threats. Their joint preparation signals the strengthening of their bond, built on mutual respect, trust, and shared purpose. The tension escalates when the group of men arrives under cover of night. Their approach is stealthy, but not perfect. Tay and Eleanor, alerted by a combination of instinct and careful observation, intercept them at the edge of the estate. What unfolds is a tense standoff. The intruders demand Tay's return, asserting societal rights and leveraging threats, while Eleanor stands her ground, asserting moral authority and refusing to allow injustice to prevail. The scene is electric, charged with fear, defiance, and moral clarity. At this critical moment, Tay demonstrates the full measure of his courage and skill. He does not act out of aggression, but out of calculated strategy, using his knowledge of the terrain and the psychological leverage of surprise to neutralize the threat. Eleanor observes in awe and relief, recognizing that the man she has fought to protect is not only capable of defending himself, but capable of protecting her and the home they now share. The townspeople, who may have learned of the confrontation, are shocked by the unfolding events. The narrative tension escalates as the story highlights both physical danger and the moral stakes involved in defending freedom and human dignity. Beyond the immediate physical threat, this crisis introduces profound emotional and psychological developments. For Tay, the standoff validates Eleanor's faith in him, while simultaneously reinforcing his sense of agency and self-worth. He has been given freedom, and he now demonstrates that he can use it responsibly, strategically, and courageously. For Eleanor, the crisis underscores the stakes of her moral choices. Her decision to act with compassion has consequences, both perilous and transformative. She experiences fear, adrenaline, and a deep sense of accountability, realizing that true courage is intertwined with vulnerability and responsibility. This moment also serves as a catalyst for the town's perception of both characters. News of the confrontation spreads quickly, shocking the community in multiple ways. Some townspeople are impressed, recognizing Eleanor's bravery and Tay's skill. Others are scandalized, fearful that social hierarchies are being challenged and that norms of power, race, and gender are being disrupted. The combination of admiration and indignation amplifies the story's dramatic tension, setting up future conflicts while deepening the narrative stakes. An equally important element of this crisis is the intimate dynamic between Eleanor and Tay. During the confrontation, their reliance on one another solidifies an emotional bond that goes beyond friendship or duty. Eleanor trusts Tay's judgment implicitly, and he respects her courage and moral vision. This mutual reliance fosters a deep emotional connection, one rooted in shared experience and authentic partnership. The story emphasizes that respect, understanding, and trust are as vital to survival as physical strength or strategic skill. After the confrontation, there is a period of reflection and recalibration. Eleanor and Tay discuss what occurred, what could have gone wrong, and how they might respond to future threats. This dialogue is both practical and emotional. It reinforces the themes of collaboration, mutual respect, and moral integrity. They begin to understand that living freely in a society structured against them requires both vigilance and courage, but also deep empathy and loyalty to one another. These discussions are critical as they lay the foundation for future decisions and actions that will define the trajectory of the story. This crisis also introduces subtle social commentary. It highlights the systemic prejudices and entrenched power dynamics of the frontier society. The aggressors embody the intolerance, greed, and entitlement that Tay and Eleanor are up against, while Eleanor and Tay represent compassion, intelligence, and resilience. The contrast between these forces deepens the thematic resonance of the story. Acts of moral courage can challenge social injustice, even when those acts provoke fear, resentment, or scandal among the broader population. Additionally, the crisis serves as a narrative pivot point. It transforms Tay from a passive recipient of Eleanor's compassion into an active participant in his own destiny. It also reframes Eleanor's role. She is no longer simply a benefactor acting on impulse. She is a strategic, courageous figure whose decisions carry weight and influence, both within her household and in the broader social context. The resolution of this crisis marks a turning point in the story, establishing that both characters are capable of facing danger, making difficult moral choices, and growing stronger together under pressure. Following the harrowing confrontation with the opportunists from town, life at Eleanor's estate enters a period of quiet intensity, where trust, respect, and emotional connection deepen between the two protagonists. Outline 4 explores this pivotal stage in the story, emphasizing personal growth, shared triumphs, and moments that astonish not only the town, but also the characters themselves. This outline captures the intimate yet transformative aspects of their relationship, highlighting how extraordinary circumstances can create bonds that defy societal expectations. The days after the crisis are marked by reflection and adjustment. Eleanor and Tay spend time together in both structured activities and shared exploration of the surrounding land. The estate, situated on the edge of wilderness, offers a unique environment for learning and collaboration. Eleanor's curiosity about the natural world blends seamlessly with Tay's intimate knowledge of it, creating opportunities for mutual enrichment. For instance, Eleanor begins accompanying Tay on walks through the woods, learning how to read subtle signs in the environment, animal tracks, weather indicators, and the hidden resources of the land. Tay, in turn, becomes fascinated by Eleanor's strategic thinking, her knowledge of language, and her ability to navigate societal expectations with grace and assertiveness. These shared experiences create a rhythm of interaction that blends practical skills with emotional connection. This period also emphasizes Tay's growing confidence and autonomy. Having survived the initial threats to his freedom, he begins to assert himself in new ways. He contributes to decisions about the estate, offers guidance on managing the land, and even participates in small projects that enhance Eleanor's home and livelihood. His contributions are not mere labor. They reflect ingenuity, cultural knowledge, and strategic thinking. Eleanor observes these actions with admiration, recognizing that Tay is not only capable, but also innovative, resilient, and morally grounded. Their relationship evolves from one of benefactor and beneficiary into a partnership defined by mutual respect and collaboration. Amid these daily routines, moments of emotional intimacy and personal revelation arise. One particularly poignant instance occurs when Tay reveals aspects of his past, his experiences before the auction, the losses he endured, and the cultural traditions that shaped him. Eleanor listens with empathy, never interrupting or imposing her own narrative. This act of attentive listening allows Tay to process trauma in a safe environment, reinforcing the story's central themes of healing, trust, and emotional growth. Eleanor, in turn, shares her own vulnerabilities, the pressures of societal expectation, her fears of failing morally, and her hopes for a more just world. These exchanges deepen their bond, creating a connection that is grounded in authenticity rather than social convention. During this period, the town's fascination and scrutiny continue to escalate. News of Eleanor's unconventional household, combined with Tay's evident skill and dignity, spreads rapidly. The townspeople are divided in their reactions. Some view the arrangement as scandalous, believing that a woman of Eleanor's standing should not associate so intimately with a native man. Others are intrigued, perhaps even inspired, by the evident trust and cooperation between the two. This social tension adds layers of complexity to the narrative, illustrating the broader consequences of individual acts of moral courage. Eleanor and Tay are not merely living together. They are challenging entrenched social hierarchies and forcing the community to confront its own prejudices. A defining moment in this outline occurs when Tay undertakes a particularly ambitious project on the estate, the construction of a defensive watchtower on the property's edge. While the immediate goal is practical, enhancing security after the previous threat, the project carries symbolic weight. It represents Tay's growing agency, his investment in the household, and the merging of his expertise with Eleanor's vision. The construction process is arduous, requiring both physical skill and strategic planning. Eleanor supports him throughout, assisting with planning, sourcing materials, and offering encouragement. Their collaboration becomes a visible demonstration to the community of Tay's capabilities and the strength of their partnership. As the tower nears completion, the story introduces a dramatic twist that shocks both the characters and the town. A sudden natural threat, a wildfire sparked in the surrounding hills, endangers the estate and the surrounding community. The town initially panics, but Eleanor and Tay's foresight and preparation allow them to act decisively. Tay organizes evacuation routes for livestock, while Eleanor coordinates efforts to alert neighboring households. Together, they lead a response that is both efficient and courageous, protecting lives and property that might otherwise have been lost. The community witnesses firsthand the competence, bravery, and ingenuity of the two, challenging long-held prejudices and assumptions about Tay's worth and Eleanor's judgment. This event serves multiple narrative purposes. First, it solidifies the town's recognition of Tay as a skilled and reliable individual, shifting some opinions from skepticism to admiration. Second, it reinforces Eleanor's moral authority, demonstrating that her judgment, though unconventional, is sound and effective. Third, it provides an intense, shared experience that further binds the two protagonists emotionally. Facing danger together allows them to witness each other's courage under pressure, deepening trust and establishing a sense of interdependence that will carry forward into future challenges. During the aftermath of the wildfire, Eleanor and Tay engage in reflective dialogue about their experiences. They discuss the importance of collaboration, the value of foresight, and the necessity of moral courage in the face of both human and natural threats. Tay acknowledges that Eleanor's guidance and trust have been instrumental in allowing him to act with confidence. Eleanor, in turn, expresses gratitude for Tay's insight, resilience, and loyalty. These conversations are pivotal as they provide readers with insight into the characters' evolving inner lives while reinforcing the story's thematic concerns, empathy, integrity, and the transformative power of partnership. Another key aspect of Outline 4 is the development of subtle emotional intimacy. While the narrative has avoided overt romanticization to this point, the shared experiences of trust, challenge, and triumph create moments of quiet connection. A simple scene, such as Eleanor offering Tay water after the strenuous work of the tower, or Tay shielding her from falling debris during the wildfire, carries profound emotional weight. These interactions are laden with unspoken recognition of each other's value, courage, and humanity. They demonstrate that deep emotional bonds often arise from shared trials, respect, and acts of mutual care. This outline also emphasizes the ongoing cultural exchange between Eleanor and Tay. Tay teaches Eleanor traditional Apache techniques for observing nature, understanding animal behavior, and predicting weather patterns. Eleanor shares strategies for organizing resources, managing household affairs, and navigating social expectations. These exchanges are not purely practical. They signify mutual respect, the blending of knowledge systems, and the breaking down of cultural barriers. The narrative highlights that true partnership requires both listening and learning, and that understanding another's perspective is an essential form of empowerment. After weeks of shared experiences, growing trust, and public astonishment, the story reaches its climax. Outline 5 explores the culmination of the narrative arc, where Eleanor and Tay's bond, courage, and resilience are tested in ways that shock the entire town and redefine social expectations. This stage focuses on transformation, moral triumph, and the far-reaching consequences of acts of compassion and courage. The outline begins with Eleanor and Tay facing the ongoing scrutiny of the town. Rumors of their partnership, combined with the heroic events of the wildfire and Tay's demonstrated competence, have made them the subject of fascination and gossip. Yet not all observers are admirers. Some townspeople, particularly influential men, invested in preserving the social hierarchy, plot to undermine Eleanor and reassert control over Tay, either by legal maneuvering, social pressure, or direct intimidation. These antagonists represent entrenched prejudice and the resistance of a society unwilling to accept change. Amid this tense atmosphere, Eleanor receives word of a formal challenge, a legal claim that Tay is still the property of someone else, based on technicalities or dubious documentation. The accusation is a calculated attempt to assert control and discredit Eleanor, designed to shock the community into questioning her judgment and tarnish her reputation. Rather than retreating, Eleanor approaches the situation with the same calm determination she displayed at the auction. She prepares her case meticulously, gathering witnesses, evidence of Tay's autonomy, and documentation to demonstrate that the purchase was both legitimate and morally justified. Tay, empowered by the trust and freedom he has experienced, becomes an active participant in these preparations, showcasing his intelligence, eloquence, and knowledge of both cultural and legal matters. The legal confrontation itself becomes a dramatic spectacle. The courtroom, or equivalent public forum, fills with townspeople eager to witness the outcome. Observers are polarized. Some expect Eleanor to fail and Tay to be forcibly removed, while others secretly hope that justice and moral courage will prevail. The tension is palpable, as the story has woven a web of stakes encompassing personal freedom, societal norms, and the broader question of justice and human dignity. During the proceedings, Tay takes a remarkable step. He speaks for himself, addressing the town and the court with a clarity, eloquence, and authority that astonish everyone present. His words articulate not only his desire for freedom, but also his sense of justice, his commitment to integrity, and his respect for Eleanor as a guide, ally, and moral advocate. The townspeople are forced to confront the humanity and intelligence of a man they had long viewed through the narrow lens of prejudice. This moment is both shocking and transformative, as Tay becomes a symbol of resilience, dignity, and the power of individual agency. The outcome of the confrontation is a decisive affirmation of Eleanor and Tay's partnership. The court, or community decision-makers, rule in their favor, legitimizing Tay's autonomy and publicly acknowledging Eleanor's moral courage. The announcement sends shockwaves through the town. Those who doubted Eleanor's judgment are confronted with the reality that compassion, intelligence, and ethical action can prevail over social convention and prejudice. Tay, once auctioned as property, emerges as a fully recognized individual whose freedom and dignity are celebrated rather than questioned. Following this legal and social vindication, the narrative shifts to explore the personal transformation of both characters. Tay, having navigated danger, cultural dislocation, and societal scrutiny, now embodies confidence, agency, and self-respect. He assumes a role in Eleanor's household, not as a subordinate, but as a partner, equal in voice, responsibility, and influence. Eleanor, witnessing Tay's evolution, experiences the fulfillment of her moral vision. She has created an environment in which compassion, trust, and courage have tangible, life-altering effects. Their relationship, forged through adversity and shared triumphs, is now solidified, representing the story's emotional and ethical core. The town, initially skeptical and judgmental, undergoes a gradual but significant transformation in perception. Many townspeople who witness Tay's eloquence, courage, and skill begin to reevaluate their own biases. While prejudice does not vanish overnight, the events challenge long-held assumptions, opening space for greater understanding, empathy, and respect. Eleanor and Tay's story becomes a catalyst for cultural reflection, demonstrating that moral courage and human dignity can disrupt entrenched social hierarchies. The shock that everyone experiences is not merely a surprise at the legal outcome, but a profound recognition that societal norms can be challenged, and that acts of justice and compassion can redefine what is possible in a community. This stage also explores moments of personal triumph and quiet celebration. Tay engages in projects that showcase his skills, perhaps leading efforts to cultivate the land, organize the estate, or share his cultural knowledge with the community in meaningful ways. Eleanor supports these endeavors, recognizing that empowerment requires both freedom and opportunity. Together, they demonstrate a model of partnership that combines respect, collaboration, and shared vision. These achievements are both practical and symbolic, reinforcing the narrative's themes of agency, dignity, and moral courage. The emotional resonance of Outline 5 is heightened by intimate, reflective moments between Eleanor and Tay. They acknowledge the extraordinary journey they have shared, from chains and suspicion to freedom, trust, and mutual respect. These moments are quiet, yet profound. A shared glance across a field, a conversation about past hardships and future hopes, or the simple act of working side by side on the land. Through these interactions, readers witness the depth of their bond, the fulfillment of their personal growth, and the realization of the story's core message, that empathy, moral courage, and respect can transform lives in ways that shock, inspire, and endure. Additionally, Outline 5 underscores the broader thematic implications of the story. Eleanor and Tay's journey is a microcosm of societal change. It illustrates how individuals, through acts of moral courage, can challenge injustice, reshape perceptions, and foster understanding across cultural divides. The shock experienced by the town is emblematic of the disruption of entrenched norms, demonstrating that true leadership, justice, and human dignity often emerge from unexpected places. The resolution also addresses the long-term consequences for the characters. Tay's life, once defined by marginalization, fear, and exploitation, is now transformed by autonomy, recognition, and opportunity. Eleanor's role as a compassionate advocate and moral leader is affirmed, and her reputation, initially questioned, is solidified as someone who acts decisively and ethically. Their partnership sets a precedent within the community, inspiring others to reconsider prejudices and embrace acts of courage and kindness.